All right, then. That takes us to section 4, this is my favorite. Problem solving. And as I said before, I'll show you what the 8 steps of problem solving are, and that's also what the Gemba Academy is, but I'm going to focus on these 4 areas because it's where I see the most difficulty. Problem statements, the 5 whys, PDCA, and A3. Does everyone know PDCA? Pardon?
Plan, do, check,
Act. Very good. Plan, do, check, act. And I'll talk more about that later. Problem solving. I like that. So this is kind of sometimes called the Toyota funnel. This talks about the concept of you hear about a problem and you run out, and what's the first thing you do when you have a problem? Go and see. Go to the Gemba. Does everyone know what the word Gemba is? Gemba is a Japanese word for where the work is being done. Okay? It's also in a crime scene. You know, a detective goes to the Gemba. Where did the crime happen? Right? Gemba, go and see. Go see for yourself. Don't wait for a report. Don't wait for an email. Don't wait for tomorrow's quality results. Go and see to clarify the problem yourself. Okay? When you're there, you start to understand what's being done, and hopefully it takes you to the direct cause. Okay? The direct cause is the place where you can, the problem first manifests itself. Okay? So, for example, I was working with a drug company here a month ago, okay, and we were doing problem solving with them. And it was important drugs. They're all important, right? They were legal. This was a legal drug company. But they got to final testing, right? They were doing the final testing before they were ready to package, and they had a problem, okay? Well, did the problem happen at the testing? No, that's where you detected it, okay? That's the high level, all right? So then they began to investigate. Where did the problem actually manifest itself? At the mixing, right? When they mixed it, because that's the last time, you know, between the mixing and final, nothing else happened to it. So the problem manifested itself at the mixing operation. Okay, when they're putting the other subcomponent, other subchemicals together. Okay? So that was the direct cause, the point of cause. Is that where the problem happened? Is that the root cause of the problem? No. The root cause was that one of the supplied parts or chemicals was incorrect. So for their facility, the root cause was a bad subcomponent. Right? Now, what was the cause of that? Well, then that investigation needs to be carried on by their supplier. Or injunction, they go and investigate it to go deeper to what's the real root cause. But for them, their root cause was I'm having a bad, okay, I'm receiving a bad subcomponent. Okay? That's our goal, to get to the true root cause. I will argue that from a true root cause, you have a logical connection to the countermeasure, right? A very logical, this is bad, therefore do this, okay? And how do you know you found the true root cause? We'll argue that you have found the true root cause and implemented a good countermeasure when that problem never happens again for the same reason. Okay? At a very high level, you may have the same problem. Okay? But if it's for a different root cause, okay, then you need to do a different countermeasure. So go back and look at your repeat defects. When I'm teaching built-in quality at an organization and I'm doing a workshop with them, the first thing I start with is bring me the problems that have repeated that you believe you've taken countermeasures for. Because that's your first fail, right? You thought you were taking a good countermeasure and it didn't work. The problem repeated for the same reason. It means you didn't get to the root cause, okay? So if you want to think about implementing this, start there. Start with your repeats. Start with the ones that you think you've countermeasured, okay? Also, a lot of times we talk about, okay, if we have a moving line, right, or any moving process, what do we need to do right away, right when we first run out there? We need to stop the bleeding, right? Have you heard that expression? Stop the bleeding? We need to take a temporary countermeasure right away to keep that problem from continuing, right? Stop the snake, right? However, what do we do 75% of the time?
Make it permanent.
Yeah, we don't make it permanent, right? We don't go do a true root cause and take a good permanent countermeasure. Because why? Because we get a cut on this arm. And then so we run over. Firefighting. Who does a lot of firefighting? Be proud, right? Right? And so what happens? Oh, okay. Yeah, I investigated. I got a temporary countermeasure. Oh, okay, now this problem came up. And what do? All we do is firefight. All we do is put Band-Aids and not go to the true. We don't go and get something properly mended. So one of my favorite new phrases I learned from a doctor in Oregon, and we were talking about this concept about not properly stopping the bleeding. And he said to me, and this is a doctor, he said to me, all bleeding stops eventually. It's your option. You fix it or you're dead. And I thought, wow, that's a powerful statement. It's true though. All bleeding stops eventually. So here are the 8 steps of problem solving. The most common: clarify the problem, break down the problem, set a target, analyze to the root cause, get countermeasures. Then see the countermeasures through, monitor the process results, and standardize successful processes, or start over again with unsuccessful. Are you familiar with those 8 steps? And then in the world of plan, do, check, act, right? Steps 1 through 5 are all the plan. I'm developing the plan. I'm setting my goals, setting my targets. Step 6 is the do. Then I check. And my act is to either standardize success or start over again. Sometime people use plan, do, check, adjust. Has anyone heard that version? Right? I don't like adjust because it implies that every time you fail. Right? With the word act, you're allowed to say, hey, I might have succeeded and I need to standardize that. If it failed, then I need to make a new plan. Okay? But I want to now go back and talk about the problem statement portion of this. This is where there's a big shortcoming. And I heard this. Does anyone know who Charles Kettering is? You do? Good. Who is he? Was he?
Well, what I know is that the university
Yep, very good. Right? It was, I think they changed the name. It became the GM Institute, right? But there was a Kettering University, which was a General Motors funded, sponsored, whatever.
They changed the name back now. It's Kettering
Oh, it's back to Kettering. Excellent. He was a brilliant president of General Motors a long time ago who said, a problem clearly stated is a problem half solved. And the first time I heard that, I was like, oh, well, that's cute, nice catchphrase. But the more that I've not only done problem solving, the more I've taught problem solving, the more important I have recognized that this really is. Okay? A problem clearly stated is a problem half solved. So what does that mean? What is a good problem statement? For me, the very first thing is it clearly and measurably defines the gap between your actual, your current situation, and your target. Okay? That is your gap. That is your problem, is that gap. All right? Again, it sounds simple. But if I challenge you to any problem you work on to graph it. If you can't graph it, you don't have a good problem statement. Okay? Many times you get brought problems that might be opinion as opposed to fact, and you're told to work on it. Don't work on it until you can graph it. Sometimes you get brought, oh, our actual situation is we have a 20% failure rate. Improve it. Maybe you don't have clear targets established. So, establish a target. Making a good problem statement is a contract with your boss or your organization to say, I want to spend time and energy working on this problem. Okay? And if you can't graph it, what are you going to negotiate? It could be arbitrary. You could do a lot of work and then fail miserably or succeed, but there's no evidence because you haven't made this clear contract. So, if you can't graph it, if you don't know the actual, if you don't know the target, that's your first step. Don't do anything else until then. I worked with a major healthcare provider in Washington State, and they had 20 problems on a list that they wanted to solve as a company during the year. And the first thing the team did was go and put the numbers around their current situation, and then they studied what the target should be. And so then they did benchmarking with other organizations, right? And so they were at 8% of whatever it is their problem was. And when they benchmarked it, found out the benchmark is 13%, which is worse, right? Lower is good. And so their conclusion was, we're pretty darn good. We don't need to do anything, right? And so they reported that, and they closed out that item. Okay, done. We're finished. We closed that one out. And at the end of the year, that was the only problem they solved by doing nothing other than a good investigation of understanding the target and realizing, hey, we're pretty darn good. But that team just got all kinds of accolades because they closed their item. All right. A good problem statement should be short, right? 1 or 2 sentences. Don't ramble on. Usually, rambling on means you're including a lot of background supporting information up front. Put that separate. So you want a good, short 1 or 2 sentences. Focus on the gap. And it needs to be measurable and factual. If you can't measure it, you can't prove that you've been successful or you failed. And then it should address a quality, delivery, or cost issue. It should be something that's important to the company, right? It might be safety also. I mean, don't get me wrong, it might be safety. But there needs to be, it can't be, I don't like the color of the carpet. Who cares? Yes, I'm sorry you don't like it, but it's not helping us with quality delivery or cost, right? And putting a dollar value, taking whatever it is, whether it's quality delivery or cost, and putting it in the terms of dollars really gets people's attention, okay?